in the art scroll, we didn't send that to the group last night, but I said people know we're on, right? Yeah. You want to send to the group that we're on. Just remember, we should reach out to Yosef Harmon, because the schedule with his kids, because we haven't seen him on the Zoom. Where's the guy from upstate New York? He used to live here. Okay, we're on the art scroll 25A 1. The end of 1, the Mishnah. Just to review the Mishnah, that Shluchim Mitzvah, the Mishnah states that people that are on a mission of mitzvah, you sent to the group, Adam? Thank you very much. People that are on a mission to do a mitzvah, they're Peturim min Sukkah. They're exempt from the mitzvah of Sukkah. We're going to see more details about this in the Gemara. What does it mean that when you're involved, you're sent to a mitzvah? Let's say you go in to redeem captives. Interesting that Rashi used that example, and here there's so many captives. Captives is something that we don't hear about so much now. So many captives in Israel. So if you're on that mission to save the people, or you're on the mission to go greet your rabbi, Rashi says, you're on the mission to learn Torah, so you're exempt from the sukkah. You don't have to set up a sukkah. If you're engaged in that mitzvah number 1, you're exempt from mitzvah number 2. And we said the Aruch HaShulchan, his approach is, if that the exemption is only if, Tosfos is like Tosfos' opinion, if you're going to stop to do mitzvah number 2, the second mitzvah, it's going to delay or it's going to affect the performance of your first mitzvah. But if it's not going to affect the performance of your first mitzvah, then you have to stop to mitzvah second mitzvah and then go back to mitzvah number 1. But if you're going to, let's say, as a result of setting up a sukkah, it's going to delay your trip to help the captives. It's delay your trip to meet your rabbi, and you might miss out on meeting your rabbi. You might miss out on learning the Torah. Then you're exempt from the second mitzvah. The concept when you're engaged in one mitzvah, you're exempt from the second mitzvah if by doing the second mitzvah it's going to have a effect in some way, it's going to hinder the performance of your first mitzvah. Is that clear, Adam? You have the information? But the same way you get on, you can tell how to get on, right? Yeah. You have his name? He didn't say his name. He didn't identify himself. De Natal. I'm not sure. Great. Okay. So that's the first halacha. Then the Mishnah states, someone who's sick, and somebody who serves him, takes care of him, and we're talking about someone who's sick, and by sitting in the sukkah, that they're going to be very uncomfortable because of their sickness. So then we say they're exempt from the sukkah, someone who is sick. Now, in general, if somebody is sick, person is sick, it doesn't make a person exempt from putting on tefillin because the person is sick. So put on tefillin. You eat when you're sick, you do other things when you're sick. So you put on tefillin. Of course, a person not capable of putting on tefillin because the type of sickness that he has, he's not able to put on tefillin. It's one thing. But we don't say that because a person, it might be difficult for the person to put on tefillin, but he's able to put on tefillin, he puts on the tefillin. But or other mitzvahs that a person has when they're sick doesn't exempt them. A person sick, therefore doesn't have to take the lulav and etro because he's sick. He take the lulav and etro in his house. He's sick. He can't go out. He has COVID, whatever it is. You do the mitzvot, whatever mitzvot. As long as you're capable of doing the mitzvah, you do it. But here, there's a special law when it comes to sukkah that mitzvah, if you're in, if the sukkah is causing you distress, because let's say the rain is coming in, so being there you're mitzta'er, you're in distress as a result of the performance of this mitzvah. The mitzvah is causing you, it's disturbing you, because meaning the idea is the sukkah is supposed to be like your house. You live in the sukkah like you live in your house in a certain sense. And the same way you wouldn't in your house, you wouldn't stay in your house if you have the rains coming in. That's not the type of house that you have. So too, if the sukkah is affecting you because of the rain, you'll be exempt from the sukkah. And similarly, maybe we'll see more in the Gemara, what the Gemara should say more about this. If let's say if a person's sick and the being outside would have a very average person in this weather would not affect them. But because this person is sick, he's very distressed by being any slightness of cold really distresses him. So he would be exempt from the sukkah. And not only is he exempt, Misham Shemeim, the people that take care of him also, his aid is also, he has a Jewish aid, is also exempt from the sukkah. Now, Uchlin v'shotin arai chutz sukkah. The Mishnah states that we eat and we drink in a temporary way outside the sukkah. That means to say, in a permanent way, we don't eat and drink outside the sukkah. In a permanent way, we go ahead and we want to have a meal, a formal meal of bread, a formal meal of mizonot. You don't have that outside the sukkah. You don't have that outside the sukkah. Good morning, Michael.
Morning, Rabbi.
It's good to have you back. It's been a long time. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rabbi. Same.
We are on 25A, 25A2, the top of 25A2, the end of the Mishnah.
I got the wrong one. Let me get the other one.
Okay. So the last thing we said, just to bring everybody up to date, this was a halacha that was very common during the Yom Tov of Sukkot, is what can I eat outside the Sukkah? We want to welcome the person who just joined our class. Good morning. We are on 25A. We are on the end of the Mishnah, 25A2. Good morning. It's your name comes up as Zoom user. I want to say hello to who do we have the honor? Okay. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Okay. So the Mishnah says that you're allowed to eat and drink in a temporary fashion outside the sukkah. Welcome back, Morris. It says you can eat and drink in a temporary fashion outside the sukkah, which means to say,
שלום, השם שלי דן, אני מצטרף אליכם מירושלים.
Yes, our learning should be a great merit for all the people in Eretz Israel. This is one of the things that we could do. People ask the question, what could we do in America? We could do is we could learn, we could say Tehillim, we could pray, give tzedakah. These are all things that Ma'avir and Ezra, Gezerah, Tshuva, Tefillah, tzedakah, definitely the power of learning Torah. Morning, Mr. Haber. So it says that we could eat and drink in a temporary fashion outside a sukkah. And the reason for that is because just like in your house, the sukkah is supposed to be your house, right? You live in the sukkah the way you live in your house. So just like in your house, sometimes you eat snack outside your house, drink in a temporary fashion outside your house. So too, you could eat and drink outside a sukkah if it's in a temporary fashion. But if you're going to go ahead and have a formal meal, say you have a little more than an egg of bread, more an egg of pasta, then you would have to go ahead and have it in the sukkah. The question is, what about if you're eating other foods, not mizonot food, not hamotzi foods? So would that also require a sukkah or not? So the Shulchan Aruch, Moron HaMachaber, says he only mentions mizonot If you have a meal of mezonot, you have a meal of hamotzi, an egg, a little more than an egg. But other commentators, other opinions say if you have a meal of other foods, you have a meat meal, a chicken meal, a fish meal, a cheese meal, there are those that are strict. In the Ashkenazi community, people that will have a meat meal on the holiday of Sukkot, let's say on Chol Hamoed, during the intermediate days, if they would have a meat meal, they would eat it in the sukkah, but they will not say a lishev basukah on such a meal. They would only say lishev basukah if they would have a meal made out of hamotzi or mezonot type of meal, which is a real meal. Okay, so that's the. And by the way, the fact that a person has a right to eat certain foods outside the sukkah does not mean that you should take advantage of that opportunity. Meaning, if you have an opportunity to go into a sukkah, so why not get, even the opinions that say you will not be obligated, even the mechaber of the Shulchan Aruch that will not obligate you to have chicken or meat or fruit or water in a sukkah, yet the mechaber says that anybody who doesn't even drink water outside the sukkah is a very praiseworthy thing. So it's not just, this is the only thing I got to do, and everything else I don't need, everything else doesn't make a difference. Everything else does make a difference, right, Maris? Anything you have in the sukkah, anything, whether you have a cup of water in the sukkah, is definitely is a beautiful thing. You don't have to have the water in the sukkah, but when people today, when you have a sukkah in your backyard, and you could just easily go into your sukkah, so it's definitely a praiseworthy thing. Okay, God bless you. Now we're in the Gemara. We're on 25a2 in the art scroll. 25a2. Minahane mile. The Gemara, the style of the Gemara is when you say a law, Mr. Haber likes to talk about the law, case, law, and reason. What's the source of the law? Comes the Gemara and says, here's the source of the law. Minahane mile. Where do we know this general rule that if you're engaged in a mitzvah, you're exempt from doing another mitzvah? And again, what are the terms and conditions? We're going to go with the Aruch HaShulchan and Tosfos' explanation that if by doing the second mitzvah, it's going to affect the performance of the first mitzvah. Tarabana. The V'shiftecha beveitecha. The pasuk says that you need to read the Shema when you're, when you're sitting in your house, when you're melechta chavaderach, wherever you are, whether you're home or whether you're in shul or whether you, no problem, have a nice day, sir. Whether you're home, whether you're in shul or whether you're on the road, you have a mitzvah to read the Shema. And the pasuk says regarding the reading of the Shema, b'shiftecha beveitecha, when you're sitting in your house. So, prat le'osek b'mitzvah. So when is the Torah telling you that you have a mitzvah to read the Shema? The Torah says you're sitting in your house. Now, sitting in your house, the Gemara is going to explain how does that imply, that you're not doing a mitzvah. But let's say you're sitting in your house sounds like you're involved in some sort of mundane activity. You're sitting in your house. You're relaxing in your house. So when you're sitting in your house, that's when you have the mitzvah, the obligation. The Torah says you have to go ahead and what? Say the Shema. But if you're not sitting in your house, we'll see. If you're engaged in a mitzvah, some other mitzvah, you're not obligated to go ahead and what? And say the Shema. This excludes someone who's involved in mitzvah. And Rashi says, the Gemara is going to explain, where do we see that sitting in a house means that you're not involved in a mitzvah? Maybe you're sitting in a house doing a mitzvah, and nevertheless, this mitzvah comes upon you. So we'll see, the Gemara is going to have to explain. And the pasuk says, when you're going on the road, and that's prat l'chatan. That excludes a chatan. A chatan, someone who's a groom, the night that he gets married, the night that he has the chuppah, that night he's exempt from saying the Shema, and because we're going to see why in a minute, and Rashi explains, even though he's involved in a mitzvah, right? His mind is, he has a mitzvah to be with his wife that he's going to be for the first time with his wife, and his mind wants to make sure that he's thinking about that he should do the mitzvah properly, and it's on his mind that she's the Betula, that everything will be easy to perform the mitzvah properly, that he won't get hurt during the mitzvah. So he's engaged, he's thinking about how the mitzvah should be done, and he's also exempt with this with the mitzvah of the Shema, the Chatan, the night that he gets married. Today's day and age, okay, we'll look more into the halacha. Today's day and age, the Chatan does say the Shema, but at a time, there was a time period that he was exempt. He was exempt, meaning the time when we had a lot of kavanah, more kavanah. I think we would say that therefore it's hard for him to have the kavanah, have the proper mindset that night, because he's busy thinking about the mitzvah that he's about to do, and he's preoccupied with that. But I think we say today's day and age, people aren't on that level of kavanah when they say the intent, when they say the Shema. What I recall, he would not be exempt the night of his marriage. We'll double check that maybe for tomorrow. Prat l'chatan. The chatan, the Gemara is saying that Medina the Gemara, he would be exempt from the Kriya Shema. Mikan Amru, and the way they let's see what they say over here. Rashi says he's concerned, that his mind he's concerned about the actual relation. He's thinking about how that it should be done right. The Rambam says he's concerned that maybe she's not a betula, maybe she's not a virgin, maybe he's concerned about that. Okay, so the Gemara says, "Mikan amru hakonei says a betula potul." If someone gets married to a woman who has never had relations before, she's a betula. She was single. She never got married before. She never was with a man. He is patur from the Shema. But at the Hamana, but if he marries a widow, but since she was married to someone else, so we'll see more of that chayav. Therefore, he's not marrying a betula. So some of the concerns that we said before, that he's concerned about whether she has betulim, when she has a virginity still, that only would apply for a marrying a betula, a girl that was never married before. But if she was a widow, what do you say?
In the times of the Beit HaMikdash, they had something called Tevilah Ezra.
Right.
And even like the Kohanim couldn't, if they had Baal Keri, they couldn't serve in the Beit HaMikdash. They couldn't go to the Beit HaMikdash. They had to go underneath.
They had to go to the mikveh. Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So the Gemara, now Rashi points out, what do we need two psukim to tell us these two cases? The Gemara says two cases. Case number one, the Gemara says, if you are engaged in a mitzvah, you're exempt from doing another mitzvah. That's case number one. You're exempt from the Shema if you're engaged in mitzvah number one. Case number two of the Gemara is you're engaged in mitzvah of getting married, of having a chuppah, which is another mitzvah, right? It's a mitzvah to get married, so why do we need two psukim to tell us that you're exempt in both cases? If you just tell me that if you're engaged in mitzvah, if you're in a mitzvah, you're exempt from the Shema, so wouldn't I automatically know the chatan who's engaged, getting married, having the chuppah tonight, or he just had the chuppah, and now he just had the chuppah, and now the question is, and he's going to be going to, as a mitzvah, to be with his wife, so we should know he's exempt from that other mitzvah of Shema because he's busy thinking about the mitzvah that he needs to do. Why do we need two psukim to tell us that when you engage in a mitzvah, you're exempt from the second mitzvah? So Rashi explains that a chatan is not actively involved in his mitzvah. In his mind, he's thinking about it. But the mitzvah is in his mind. He's getting ready for the mitzvah that he needs to perform, let's say, in an hour from now, or 2 hours from now. What's his engagement that makes him exempt from the mitzvah of Shema? Because his mind is thinking on this mitzvah about the mitzvah, about the concerns that he has on the mitzvah. He's involved in the mitzvah through his mind, not through action. So you might have thought that the exemption of involvement in one mitzvah, you're exempt from another mitzvah when you're actively involved. You're actually doing something. But just that your mind is preoccupied with it, you might not have said that it's something that would exempt you from the second mitzvah. So that is the chidush. The novelty is that even if you hear that misbehavior, even though the guy is not doing an action, it's not like he's traveling to do the mitzvah, he's on the move. He's just thinking about the mitzvah, thinking how to do it right, the concerns that he has with the mitzvah. He shouldn't get hurt during the act. And if she was married before, he's not concerned that he would get hurt during the act. So there are certain things that, and it's just in his mind. So you might not have said at that level, maybe we would tell the guy, you know what? Stop thinking about the mitzvah, focus in on the Shema, and then get back. Then think about the mitzvah again. The chidush is that we don't tell him that. We say that we don't tell him that. We say you're involved. You're thinking about your mitzvah. You can continue thinking about the mitzvah. You don't need to stop thinking about this mitzvah that you're being with your wife tonight, and therefore you can go ahead and you'll be technically exempt from doing the mitzvah of Shema.
But only for that time, Rabbi, only for that particular time of that he's a chatan and kala, so 7 days.
Right, or let's till he finishes doing.
I'm saying he
wouldn't get all 7 days. He would get that first time that until he does a proper.
It's limited. It's only limited to that time
that he does the proper relation. So that's what the Gemara says. Now, if we look at we'll take out the Mishnah Berurah. We'll see Beis. Torah Shulchan Aruch Siman Ayin. See what it says. It's like this. It says Ayin Sif Gimel. It says Hakones et psula. Someone who gets married to a woman who was never married before, he's exempt from Kriya Shema. So it says, Mr. Michael, it says he's exempt from Kriya Shema the first 3 days if he did not have relations with his wife. The first 3 days, he would be exempt. The first 3 days because he's thinking about the mitzvah. But if the Chafetz Chaim says, once he did the action,
that's it.
He would be obligated to Shema even the first night, and after 3 days, even if he did not do an action the first 3 days, since 3 days passed, he didn't do an action. He's not so much focused on the thought anymore, and therefore he would be obligated even after 3 days, even if he never did an action. And then the Shulchan Aruch says that's only in the early days. This exemption was in the early days. But today, that generally people don't have the proper intent that they're supposed to have. Even if a person gets married to a girl that was never had relations before, never married before, It's obligated in the Shema. So a lot of people, what they do is by the chuppah, or before the chuppah, the best thing when they have an arvit, the chatan is there and they have an arvit. If the chatan got his arvit in, or if he didn't pray then, so
Rabbi,
then when he comes home, he should.
Here's the first page of the Shema with the kavanot.
Beautiful.
Just
Beautiful.
the Shema.
Beautiful.
It's 4 pages,
Beautiful.
just for one word.
Beautiful. The first, wow, amazing. There's tremendous kavanot, but by the way, there is tremendous kavanot in the Shema, but the first thing is we have to start with the basic kavanah. Everybody, when they say the Shema, they should have in mind what Shema Yisrael, the translation of Hashem Elokeinu. Hashem is our God. Hashem is Echad. Hashem is one. Hashem is the rule. Hashem is the ruler of the world. Adon Hakol. Have in mind the basic translation of the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem. Before we get into all the deep Kabbalistic or other translations, everybody should know what at least the first pasuk of the Shema, because it says if you say the first pasuk of the Shema and you don't have in mind, you cannot get the mitzvah of Shema. You need to be thinking about the first pasuk. You're supposed to be focusing on the whole recital of the Shema. But the first pasuk, but the first pasuk of the Shema is key to fulfillment of the mitzvah Shema, similar to the Amidah. When it comes to the Amidah, the first bracha of the Amidah, the first bracha of oath, Ke'avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, with ends with Magen Avraham, that is the most important bracha, so to speak, I would say, in the Amidah, to focus in on what you're saying. Again, supposed to know the translation and focus in on the whole Amidah. There's 19 brachot, but it has to start with the first bracha. That is the most important bracha to start with. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. My mashma. So the Gemara asked the question, where do we see from the pasuk that we exclude the person from reciting the Shema? Because when you're engaged in one mitzvah, you're exempt from performing the second mitzvah. Where is the implication from the pasuk? We said the Gemara quoted a pasuk. B'shivtecha b'veitecha, lechtecha b'derech. That's the Gemara's source. That when you're exempt, if you be engaged, but if you be engaged in mitzvah, you'll be exempt from the mitzvah of Shema. Where do we see that? Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says the following: the pasuk that mentions the Shivtecha b'veitecha and the pasuk that says Melechtecha, they're all connected to derech. The word derech in the pasuk, Shivtecha b'veitecha, Melechtecha, but derech, when you're going on the road. So derech, people, the Gemara is understanding that the derech, you're going on the road to business. You're going on the road for the purpose, not that you're going on the road to greet your rabbi, not that you're traveling on the road to go ahead and go to, because you want to go to a yeshiva somewhere, not that you're going on the road to redeem captives. You're going on the road for business purposes, even though it's important to do business for your family, but it doesn't have that level of mitzvah like other, what's called you're involved in a mitzvah. So we say, Ma derech rishut, just like derech, you're going there is something that, it's not that the Torah mandated you that you had to go do this thing, go to the business now. Torah did not obligate you that. So, Avkol rishut. So therefore, anything that's similar to derech, anything that's similar to non-mitzvah, that is the case of the Torah. When the Torah tells us that you have to go in and recite the Shema, what does the Torah tell us? Even when you're involved with going to business, you're going on your road, you're going to do things, not that you're not involved in mitzvah, you're not involved in doing a mitzvah, you're involved in going to do business. And even when you're going to do business, the Torah says, there you got to go in and say the Shema. But specifically, the case of the Torah behavior is when you involve a non-mitzvah activity. But lafuki hai the mitzvah kaasi. It's coming to exclude the case when you're involved in mitzvah. When you're involved in a mitzvah, you're not traveling for when you're not traveling for monetary reasons. When you're involved in mitzvah, then when you're involved in mitzvah, then you have an exemption. The Torah, the case of the Torah that the Torah says you need to go ahead and recite the Shema is when you were involved in non-mitzvah activity. Is that clear, Mr. Aver? Morris, is that clear? You're involved in non-mitzvah activity. Adam, right?
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, now, so the Gemara challenges this interpretation that we just said. You just said, Michael, the Gemara just said that derech means you're involved in non-mitzvah. So the Gemara says, how do we know that? Maybe you're traveling for the purpose of a what? Of a mitzvah. The Torah says, when do you have an obligation to say the Shema? When you're traveling. The question is, what are you traveling for? What is the case? Are you traveling for a non-mitzvah purpose? Or are you traveling for a mitzvah purpose? The Gemara opened up saying traveling is for a non-mitzvah purpose. So the Gemara shoots back. Milo askinan de ka'azla dvar mitzvah. Can't we say the pasuk can also be talking about traveling for the purpose of non-mitzvah? It could be talking about you traveling. Traveling is a very broad term. Maybe you're traveling for mitzvah as well. And maybe it includes both a case of traveling for mitzvah and traveling for not mitzvah. And the Torah tells you that you have to go ahead and say the Shema under such circumstances. And the Ka'amar Rachmana al-Dikri, and the pasuk says that you have to say the Shema even though you're involved in a mitzvah. So comes the Gemara and it says, shoots back. Im Kain, if that's the case, limakra b'shevet u'b'lechet. If it's not personal business, if it's not personal travels, then the Torah should say b'shevet b'veitecha b'lechet b'derech. It should not say the word b'lechtecha when you're going. The emphasis on you. It says the pasuk says when you are sitting in the house, when you are traveling. So the Gemara says when you means because it's done for your purpose. You're doing it for your personal gain. So the Gemara says, the Torah is coming to tell us that when you're going for your purpose, not that you're just traveling. If I say you have to say the Shema when you're traveling, so you could say you're traveling for different reasons. You could be traveling for God really reasons, because you want to do a mitzvah. You're traveling for personal reasons. But when the Torah emphasizes Balachtecha Maderech, you're going for yourself. So yourself is indicating more for personal reasons, not for you're mandated by the Torah. So when you're going for your purpose, that's when you're obligated in the Shema. However, but if you're involved in the mitzvah, patira, you're exempt. Meaning to say, if you're going to travel to your rabbi, and it might delay you to get to your rabbi, you're exempt from doing the mitzvah of the Shema, because you're involved in mitzvah number one. That exempts you from doing mitzvah number two. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, afilu kones es ha'almana nami. If someone gets married to a widow, right? She was married once before. Okay, so she's not a betula, she's not a virgin, but she's a widow. And you're also doing a mitzvah. Getting married to the widow is also a mitzvah. So why is he obligated in the Shema? You made a distinction. the Braita made a distinction between marrying a woman who was never married before and marrying a woman who was once married before. And you told me a woman who was never married before, you are exempt from the mitzvah of Shema because you're thinking about your mitzvah that you're going to be doing. A woman that was married once before, you're not you're obligated in the mitzvah of Shema. So the Gemara says you're also you're getting married to this woman who's a widow, and so you're involved in the mitzvah. So you're thinking about the mitzvah you're going to be doing with her, with this widow who was once married before. So it's on your mind. Your mind is preoccupied with the mitzvah that you're about to do with this woman. In an hour from now, whatever it is. So again, we're talking about here kones. You ready? You let's say you did the chuppah, and that's because so why shouldn't you be exempt from the Shema when you marry her as well? So the Gemara says kones is a psula tarut, because when a guy's marrying a girl that was never married before, that's really that's where your mind is really focused on thinking about the mitzvah. You're concerned about, does she still have her betulim? Does she still have her virginity or not? That's on your mind. But kones is almanah. But when you marry a widow, when you know already she's not a virgin, then your mind is not, you're not preoccupied with that part of, and therefore lo torid. Therefore you're not torid. You're not, and therefore since your mind is more clear, you're not preoccupied with this. If you're not preoccupied with the mitzvah, even though you're going to do a mitzvah by being with the widow. But since your mind is much more clearer, therefore you will not be exempt from the mitzvah of the Shema. So the Gemara shoots back. You're telling me, you know what? That when you're marrying the woman who was never married before, your mind is preoccupied with the mitzvah. You're so busy with that mitzvah in your mind, you're so, and that will exempt you from the mitzvah of Shema. What about if someone had a ship? He had a ship, and the ship went out on voyage, and the ship sunk. Are you going to tell me because you're preoccupied on that, you're going to be exempt? Are you going to tell me they're exempt from the mitzvah of Shema? Someone hears that his ship sunk. So the Gemara says, are you going to tell me they are exempt? Someone who's an Avel, someone who Rahman al-Litzlan, he lost one of his close relatives, one of his 7 close relatives. He's obligated in all the mitzvot. The fact that a guy lost his close relative and he's sitting shiva, he's during the week of mourning, doesn't make him exempt from mitzvot. He still has to do the mitzvot, the Torah, right? When it's time to do Birkat HaMazon, he says Birkat HaMazon. He still has a mitzvah to say Birkat Torah. He still has their mitzvot that he has during this time period. All the mitzvot he's obligated in.
But not when he's an onen. Not when he's an onen.
Okay, right. But here we're talking about when he was an avel. Very good. So, but after post the burial, he's obligated on mitzvah chutz min tefillin. There's one mitzvah that we say he's exempt from. That first day, in halacha we have to see. I mean, that's how some explain that even when he comes back from the funeral, that first day he's exempt from tefillin. Chayav b'chutz tefillin sheinema b'hem. We have to see what the minhag in the different communities are. But in the Ashkenaz community, that many have that custom that the first day they will not put on the tefillin. Sheinema b'hen pe'er. The tefillin is referred to as a crown. And since tefillin is referred to as a crown, So it's not appropriate for a person to go ahead and hack in such a time period when a person is in a velut, when they're in mourning, you can't put on tefillin in a time, a crown in a time of mourning doesn't make any, especially the first day, right after the funeral, will not be sensible to put on. There's no mitzvah of putting on tefillin. We'll see more tomorrow, more about this. Okay, I don't want to be people late to davening. I want to wish everyone a great day.
Welcome back, Rabbi. We missed you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Michael.
See you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Great day, everybody.
Israel.
Yes, I mean, everything should be good for the Jewish people. If you want to encourage other people to come to the class for tomorrow, we for merit for everybody.
Amen.
For all Jewish people, all the best.
For Haim Raphael Ben Frida, please.
How's he doing?
He's good, Baruch Hashem, but I'm gonna pray.
Everyone should keep everyone in mind. Yes, 100%.